Hi, guys, and welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia, and I'm coming to you from Germany. Today is Saturday, the 9th of December 2017. I'm so glad that you're joining me today, whether it's your first time watching or if you're coming back. I really appreciate you guys. This is a knitting podcast, of course. I'm sitting down today. I'm still recovering from a flu, so I'm not sure how long my voice is going to last. So I'm trying to go. I'll just see how it goes. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me today. I have quite a bit of knitting to show you guys. It's been about 2 weeks, I think, 10 days maybe, since I last talked to you. So I have some finished objects, a lot of works in progress, a tiny bit of stash enhancement, and this time it is actually tiny, so that's good. A new commercial yarn review as part of my commercial yarn series that I'm doing, and possibly some chatter in the end. So let's just get started. The first thing I have to show you today is one finished object, and that is of course a pair of socks. It is a pair of socks that was originally going to be for me, but then already when I was knitting it, I thought, well, these are kind of Kai's colors. Kai is my boyfriend, for those of you who don't know. So I let him try the socks on, and they did fit him quite well. So he essentially, once again, stole a pair of socks from me, which seems to become a bit of a habit lately. So the socks that I finished are these ones. This was a sock set from the Knitting Goddess, who is a UK-based dyer. I got this in a D-stash pretty much exactly a year ago. It was on her merino nylon sock base in the Alec and Jane colorway. So they were two 50-gram balls or skeins of yarn in the same color family, but as you can see, one has the gray, whereas the other one is mainly just red and black. So these are fraternal socks. I did matching cuffs and heels to make them look a little bit more like a pair. And I'm not sure how I feel about these. I really enjoy knitting them. I think the concept is really fun, but they are very not matching, if that makes any sense. So I'm not 100% sure about these, but Kai really, really loves them, and I had a lot of fun knitting with them, so that's the main thing. So for these socks, I did 64 stitches on a US size 1, 2.25 millimeter needle. I did my usual garter stitch fish lips conceal, which you can do with any short row heel. You just knit the purl rows. And yeah, I'm very happy they are done. They are a little bit tight on Kai's feet because originally I knit them for my size, but I knit the foot a little bit longer, and I think they should be fine. And he's really, really excited about them. So that is my finished object for this week. And then now I have like a million works in progress to show you guys. And actually the sun is coming up, which is quite nice. Haven't seen the sun in a while. Let's go somewhat chronologically, or at least I'll try to. So in here I have the one pair of socks that I already had cast on last week when I was talking, or last episode. But frankly, I haven't really worked on them, so I'm not sure why I'm showing these to you. But these are my vestigial socks, which is a pattern by Beata of Hedgehog Fibers. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. And the yarn that I'm using is Hedgehog Fibers sock in the Pesto colorway, which is a really special skein of yarn that I was gifted from a lovely friend. So these socks are very special to me. And the pattern, as you can see, it just creates a really, really fun texture. It's a little bit more time intensive to work on because it's essentially a ribbed sock. So you have quite a lot of purling, but I do really like how these socks are coming out, and I think the colorway works really well with the sort of texture pattern, and they're really stretchy, so this would be a good pattern for gift socks as well. So I still have to put in the heels. I'm not even sure if I knit on these since I last showed them to you, but in case I haven't, here they are, and yeah, not that much more to tell you about them, I guess. These will be for me. I talked about it before, how I want to have a hedgehog sock drawer, which is why I've been kind of collecting hedgehog sock yarn. And yeah, I really like the space. I've talked about that in the past. I might go more into detail about that in the future. But yeah, I'm really enjoying these, and I just need to put the heels in and actually get working on these. These have somewhat been languishing and not been worked on. Oh, my voice is already going. Let's see. The next pair of socks that I have to show you is a cast on in my beautiful bag that I showed off last week that I got from my lovely friend Kelly. I love this bag so much. It's absolutely perfect. And in here I cast on a new pair of socks using a sock blank. This is a sock blank from Hedgerow Yarns, which I've been coveting for a while. It's this beautiful sock blank. I don't think it has a colorway name, but it's one of her merino nylon sock base blanks. This is Hedgerow Yarns. It just says sock blank number 7. And I cast on a pair of socks. And I already finished the first one. Let me show. Where's my sock blocker? I should have done this in advance, shouldn't I? So, I already finished the first sock. I'll just talk about it while I put them on the blocker. Apparently, I'm not very good at multitasking. What I did essentially was I knit a tube and then I put in a afterthought heel in a matching mini because I didn't want to interrupt the sequence of the colors. So here we go. So this hasn't been blocked yet. For those of you who don't know what a sock blank is, it is a piece of knitted fabric that you essentially knit off. And because you're knitting from a fabric like this, which has been dyed, rather than a skein, the way the colors work are just very different. But it does mean that the sock and the yarn is very crinkly. So in the end, I will wet block them and they will be just like normal socks, but I haven't done that yet, so that's why the sock looks a little bit crinkly. That will definitely go away. The reason why I only block them once both socks are done is because the gauge changes quite a bit, and if you block them whilst they're working on the other one, it becomes a lot harder to gauge how long you need to knit the foot and the cuff and so on. Not sure if that's making sense, but anyways, here is the sock. Isn't it beautiful? I did a relatively long cuff. I think I did 20 rows of 2x2 ribbing and then 95 rows of stockinette. And the mini I used for the heel is from Golden Yarns, who is Kim. And yeah, so the first sock is done. I really, really love it, and I really had so much fun knitting this up. I always feel like sock blank socks, they just knit themselves. So yesterday I cast on the second sock, but I am still on the cuff, so not very far. And you can see how crinkly the yarn is, isn't it fun? So that's kind of what you knit with. It doesn't really bother me. I know some people don't like knitting from sock blanks, but I think it's fun. So yeah, those are my sock blank socks. I'm really, really enjoying them. And yeah, I just love everything about this project and the bag and the needles and the yarn and so on. So so that is one work in progress. I'm afraid to talk right now because Kai is outside in the kitchen. I can hear him rummaging around and I am knitting on his Christmas present, and I don't really want him to hear about it, even though he's already caught me knitting on it, so really it isn't going to be a surprise anyways. But let's show you my cardigan first and hope Kai goes away. So this bag is really, really full. In here I have my ombre cardigan. Well, it was originally going to be a cardigan. It's a pattern from a French designer. I never remembered her name, but the pattern is spelled E-M-B-R-U-N-S. It's a really beautiful cardigan pattern, but as I mentioned before, I had huge difficulties with the English version of this pattern. I frankly didn't think it was written very well, or maybe it's just me, but so it started out as that cardigan, but then eventually I just decided to do my own thing, and so I'm not really using the pattern anymore. But the good thing is I have finished the sleeves. So this is going to be hard to show you. It is a open front cardigan. This is what it looks like, and what I've done is I have knit pretty much like maybe halfway down the body, and then I decided to knit the sleeves first because I wanted full length sleeve and I don't have that much yarn. So I have, since I last showed it to you, I have knit 2 sleeves. They are full length sleeves, and once again I didn't follow the pattern at all. I just picked up my stitches and knit sleeves so they fit me. So all I need to do now is just knit down the body. and then that sweater will be done. I really love this project. I think the yarn is absolutely stunning. I have pretty much exactly one skein of yarn left, so I'm just going to see how long that cardigan will be depending on how much yarn I have left. I had 4 skeins of DK weight yarn, and I'm thinking that'll be enough, which is really, really reassuring because I have another DK weight sweater quantity in my stash that is also only 4 skeins. So this was sort of my test project to see if I can get a sweater for me out of 4 skeins of DK weight yarn, and I think it should work. So yeah, like I said, I really, really love this yarn. The yarn that I'm using is John Arbin Knit by Numbers in their DK weight yarn. And this is shade number 12. It is a 100% merino wool, and I really, really love this yarn. I knit a hat out of this yarn about a year ago, and I love this yarn so much. It holds up really, really well, but it is incredibly soft. I'm not sure if you can tell, but it definitely has a bit of a halo to it, and it's super soft. It's probably going to get a little bit pilly as you wear it, but excuse me. But I think it should be fine, and just, yeah, can you see how like slightly halo-y it is? Halo-y, that's a good word. I really love this yarn, and I think this is going to be a great sweater. And you know, I'm on a bit of a sweater kick, although I don't knit on sweaters as much as I would like to. But I'm trying to get a few staple pieces for my wardrobe, and I think this is going to be a really, really good one. And I'm knitting this on 3.5 millimeter US size 4 needles. Like I said, I had 4 skeins of yarn. I used pretty much exactly 1 skein for the sleeves, so I have 3 skeins for the body, and that should be just fine. I'm not even going to go into the sizing and stuff because my gauge was off and the pattern was off, and I played around with it a lot, so oh well. Talking about sweaters, maybe I should tell you what I'm wearing today. I am wearing my Relax cardigan, which is another French designer who I can't remember. I'm so sorry. This is all on my project pages, so you can find it there, but it's sort of like a boxy sweater, and it's really comfortable. I knit this ages ago out of some drops alpaca, and I wear it quite a lot. And this scarf is actually a scarf that Kai knitted, kind of for himself, but I keep stealing it because this is the sort of thing that I never knit, like a really bulky weight, thick scarf. And it turns out it's actually quite good to have a neutral colored bulky white scarf, even for like going to work and stuff. So I've been stealing this from him quite a lot, which is kind of sad considering how many beautiful, like lacy, complicated shawl patterns and shawls I have in my closet. But yeah, I tend to wear this garter stitch scarf that Kai knit, and he really loves that I wear it so much. Okay, 2 more whips to go. I think Kai has gone, so I can show you his Christmas socks, of course, in my Christmas bag, which Kim from Golden Yarns gifted me last year. Look, it has little bells. In here, I cast on a pair of socks for him. I think these are totally his colors, and he will absolutely love them. Let me show you the tag first. This is from a German dyer called Kunis Wolle. Like I said, she's based in Germany, and she has really beautiful hand-dyed yarn for what I think is a very reasonable price. And the colorway that I'm using is called Sundowner, and it's on her high twist 80% merino, 20% nylon sock base. And let me untangle this. I'm knitting them 2 at a time, and look at this pooling. Isn't this awesome? This is exactly the sort of thing that Kai loves, so I think he will absolutely love these socks. I think his socks generally pull nicer than mine do, just because I use 68 stitches instead of 64 for him. And that just seems to make the yarn pull more, like, sort of intensely. And aren't these just so much fun? I really like them, and I think he will love them. I just put in the heels yesterday, or I finished both heels. So now I have just the feet to go, and then they should be done for Christmas, which shouldn't be a big problem, except that obviously I try not to knit on them when Kai is around, and since we're both at work during the day, I can only knit on them so much. He walked in on me knitting on these the other day, which always happens when I try to knit him something secretly. But, oh well, I think he'll forget about them until Christmas, and these are only like a small part of his present anyway, so even if he has seen them before, I think he will love them anyways, and yeah. So these are my gift socks for Kai. I need to count how many socks I've knit him this year, because I feel like it must be some kind of record. He's been really, really lucky on the sock front. And the last pair of socks I just cast on last night. And I just really wanted some quick vanilla socks, and you know me, I knit quite fast. So sometimes I feel bad about just knitting through all this beautiful yarn really quickly, so I decided to pick out some commercial yarn and knit some Christmas socks. So the yarn that I'm using is Regia, Arne and Carlos, which I'm sure most of you have heard about. This is their design line, special edition. It's colorway number 3760. So this is the label. I just cake the yarn up because I like to knit my socks 2 at a time. But this is pretty much it. And these socks are just flying. Once again, let me get organized. I'm sorry, I find 2 at a time socks so much harder to show on the podcast. There we go. So these socks are not matching. I just kind of cast on, hoping that the repeats would start in a completely different position, but of course they're kind of almost matching, which is a little bit annoying, but oh well, these are just going to be vanilla socks. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep them or give them away as a Christmas present or something. But I've had this yarn in my stash for a while. I think I picked it up last year around Christmas. It's not a Christmas colorway, but just with the red and green and gray, I think it is very, very Christmassy. And I think I've actually never knit with the Arne and Carlos range, which is a really popular one by Regia. So yeah, I think they're really fun. Like I said, I just cast these on last night and sort of blast through them while watching Grey's Anatomy. So yeah, once again, 2 at a time socks, 64 stitches on a US size 1, 2.25 millimeter needle. And what else? Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm really enjoying just plain vanilla 2 at a time socks lately, and well, there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes I feel like I should be knitting more complicated stuff, but why should I stress myself out? So yeah, I'm excited about these, and I really want to knit on them some more. They're just really fun, these self-patterning sock yarns. Talking about self-patterning sock yarns, I know I started the One Ball with Love Cal this in the beginning of the year, which was a year-long informal knit-along to knit commercial sock yarns, and my goal was to knit 1 pair of commercial socks per month. I need to actually count and see how many I've done. I think I'm way past 12 pairs. But I need to make a count, so I will try to remember to tell you guys about that in the next episode. So that's it for my works in progress. And that actually leads very nicely into my commercial sock yarn review segment, which I think the 2 episodes ago I reviewed some Regia yarn. And when I say review, I'm not sponsored or asked to review anything by these companies. It's just the fact that I live in Germany, which is basically the home of commercial sock yarn and like Opal and Regia and so on. And since I knit a lot of socks, I mentioned that I could do sort of like an informal review on how these sock yarns have worn over time, how I like them, and lots of you seem to be interested in that. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just giving you my honest opinion. I'm not sponsored. I know that other people might have different opinions. This is just my experience with these yarns. So with that disclaimer out of the way, today I want to be talking about Opal, or Opal as some people like to say. This is one of the very popular sort of commercial sock yarn brands. They're made in Germany, and they're similar to Regia. They're known for their self-patterning yarn. So I think this yarn is actually quite popular in the States as well, even though I always just can't believe how expensive it is over there. in Germany, or at least in the yarn stores that I have seen, these sort of 100-gram balls of sock yarn cost around €8 maybe. So it's actually quite affordable if you want some sturdy socks. So the one that I have brought out to you to show you is one of their 100 Wasser series, which is again one of their very popular ones, where they have taken the colors from 100 Wasser paintings, which is a famous painter. I think he's from Austria, but I might be wrong. And yeah, so it comes in 100-gram balls. And what I always think about Opal yarns is that it doesn't necessarily look super beautiful in the ball, but then once you knit these socks up, they always turn out so beautiful. Like, I always hesitate buying these in the store because they just don't appeal to me just visually. But then when I see the socks knit up, I absolutely love them. So of course I haven't only brought you out a ball of yarn, I've also dug through my stash and found this pair of socks that I also knit out of Opal. This was in their Little Prince series. And this is actually the only pair of Opal socks that I found in my sock drawer, which is weird because I knit with this yarn quite a lot. But I seem to be gifting this yarn a lot as well because it is one of those yarns that is super easy to care for. I think it's a 75-25 wool nylon blend. It's just virgin wool. So it's not super soft, but it's just perfect for gifts because people can just throw it in the washing machine. I think you could even throw this in the dryer and nothing really happens to these socks. It's super, super sturdy. And because of the fun colors, I just think it makes great like gift yarn. So this is the pair of socks that I knit out of it. The pattern is Impossible Girl Socks, which is a free pattern with a sort of mock cable along the front of the sock. And I haven't worn these a ton, but I've had them for about, I don't know, maybe a year or so. And as you can see, these socks pretty much still look absolutely perfect. And I think that is the biggest advantage of Opal yarns. Like, it is pretty much indestructible, or at least that's what I've found. Like, these socks just get thrown in the washer and I'm not soft on them at all. I'm pretty rough with my Opal socks actually. And you can see there's basically no pilling at all. There's no halo. It just looks absolutely beautiful. And I think that's already the big advantage of this yarn. So in terms of knitting with this yarn, I will say that it can be quite rough. Again, with Opal, similarly to Regia, which I talked about last time, I feel like sometimes the skein is a little bit softer, sometimes it's a little bit rougher. The quality seems to change a little bit, although not as much as the Regia yarn does, in my opinion. If you are sensitive, or if the person you're gifting to is sensitive to yarn and doesn't like scratchy socks, and also if you don't like knitting with scratchy yarn, this might not be your thing. Like I said, it is really fun, and I think the colors and the finished product makes it worth it, so I don't mind knitting with this yarn, but it is definitely very different to your sort of merino sock yarn, and you will notice that while knitting with it. So for me, I like knitting with it every now and then, but I couldn't really imagine only ever knitting with this kind of yarn because, yes, it can be quite rough and sturdy, and sometimes I don't mind, but sometimes I do. But yeah, like I said, I think to sum it up, it is a really fun brand of yarns. I think they always have really interesting sort of patterns. I sometimes wish that you would have a better idea of what the yarn is going to knit up like. They do have small pictures of the socks on the label, but yeah, still for me sometimes I kind of lack that visual idea of the yarn, whereas other commercial sock yarn brands I think do that a little bit better. But yeah, it's definitely a fun yarn to try if you haven't, and I keep repeating myself, but for sturdy socks that hold up, that can be thrown in the washing machine, maybe for socks for men, for gift socks, for people who aren't knitters and who aren't going to hand wash their socks, which by the way I don't do either, but some people do. This is definitely a good yarn to try, and I would definitely recommend it. Sometimes I usually knit my socks on a very tight gauge, and with this yarn, sometimes I feel like then the gauge is almost too tight and they become a bit brick-like, so to say. So I tend to go up in needle size with Opal yarns, at least whenever I remember to. But yeah, I would recommend this yarn. And as always, if you have knit with this yarn, I would really love to hear your opinions. What do you think of this yarn? And I hope that this was interesting to you guys. So that's it for this week's sock review. Moving on to acquisitions. Actually, no. What I brought out to show you this week again, but forgot to talk about, is my sock yarn blanket, or one of them. I have been putting a few squares onto my second cozy memory blanket, and I just thought I'd show that to you very quickly. Although once again, of course, I am in the middle of a square. So this is my second cozy memory blanket. My first one is already finished, and for this one I am using the Coziest Memories pattern by Kemper Ray, who has the Junk Yarn podcast and Yarn Company. Except I am using a size 0 needle, US size 0, 2.0 millimeters, and I'm doing 56 stitches per square. So I stole this idea from Sarah of the Love Sock Wool podcast, who did, I think, one with sort of bigger squares, and I thought that looked really fun. So, how do I do this? My blanket is still not huge, but it's definitely growing, and as always, I have no idea where I was the last time that I showed this to you guys. I hope you can see it. So I'll just go through a few sort of newer squares. So I think I was down here when I last showed it to you. So I added this square, which is from Burrow and Soar, who is a UK-based indie dyer. I used this yarn in my Find Your Fate shawl. This mini is from Nora George Yarns. This came in a sock set that I knit a pair of socks out of. This mini I was gifted from Kelly last week. I showed that to you in the last podcast. I don't know what it is, but it's really, really fun. And then I have started a new row, so let's see. Yes, I added this blue square, which is the online merino sock yarn, which I used to knit Kai's birthday socks. This is the yarn that I use for my own socks. This is from Atelier Franziska Uhl. I finished these socks last week and showed them on the last podcast as well. This is Bergère de France, which is their French sock yarn in their gumi base. Don't know the colorway name. And this mini, which is really, really beautiful, and I really am enjoying this yarn base. This is another mystery mini from Kelly. Kelly, if you're watching this and you remember what this yarn is, I would really like to know, because it's really fun to work with, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. So it is slowly growing. I'm thinking I might take this over Christmas, because over Christmas we're going to be traveling quite a lot, and usually I only take socks for traveling, but then I kind of get bored of socks. So I'm thinking maybe I'll just pack a couple of minis and take this with me, because we're traveling by car anyways. So it doesn't really matter. I don't have to lug it around. And the idea of just, when hanging out with the family and getting stuff with Christmas food, knitting a couple of squares onto my blanket actually sounds really nice to me, because I really, really love working on this blanket, but usually I just don't find the time for it, because I always want to finish some other project. And so yeah, but I have been putting in a few more squares over the last days or so, and I've really been enjoying it, and I've kind of been rediscovering why I originally loved working on these blankets so much. I've also been doing a little bit of work on my crochet blanket, but I'll show that to you another time. So that's a quick idea of my sock yarn blanket. Now let's move on. Ooh, I'm throwing needles around. Let's move on to acquisitions. I had one thing come in this week, and that's one thing I'm really excited about, and that's an order that I put in with Amy of Stranded Yarns and the Stranded Dye Works podcast. I'm sure you've heard of her. She's based in the UK, and I ordered two things from her, because you don't ever only order one thing. So I got this skein on her Oasis base, which is her merino nylon superwash base. I knit a pair of socks out of the same base in a different colorway, in the Flamingo Legs colorway, and I really liked how that sock yarn wears. So I just saw this in her store and thought that would be a really fun colorway to maybe knit a pattern pair of socks, possibly another pair of monkey socks, because you guys know how much I love that pattern. The colorway is Sugar Plum. And yeah, I definitely have a thing for the purples lately, and yeah, I just thought that this would be fun, and I really like it. And the second skein that I got is the one that I totally needed and that kind of prompted this order, and that is this Piñata sock blank. I've been seeing her Piñata colorway in the store and swooning over it for ages, and I finally jumped on it the other day. I'm going to open this up. This is on her Plateau sock blank base. It's also a merino nylon base, and I've been wanting this colorway forever and ever. Like, let's open it up. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's so neon. I haven't opened this up yet before. How amazing is this? I mean, hello, my whole screen is going gray in comparison to this sock blank. But I love this so much. I am crazy excited about this. Not sure how long this can stay in my stash, but this is going to be a very, very fun pair of socks, and this is going to be a pair of selfish socks for myself. Very, very excited about this. So like I said, this is also her superwash merino nylon base in the Piñata colorway. So yeah, that's my order from Amy. Isn't it amazing? Oh. I wish I could just play with yarn all day long. That would be so much fun. And that's actually it in terms of my acquisition, and my screen is blowing out completely. So that's it for the yarny content of this show. If you're only here for that, thank you so much for watching. If you do want to stick around, I'm just going to waffle on a tiny bit about what's been going on. So as you have been noticing with my podcast being ever so absent, I've just been doing a lot of stuff, but we've just been so busy. Basically, we came back from holidays in the beginning of October, and it feels like since then, I think we've maybe spent one weekend or maybe two at home, but that's it. So we've just been traveling a lot, next to also working full time, of course. And it's been super intense, but it's also been really fun, and it's been really good to get away on the weekends and just get out and have a change of scenery, so to say. So last weekend we actually took a trip to, first of all, my parents' place, and from there we went to Würzburg, which is the city where we both met, and we lived there together as well. So it's a city where I did my studies, so I lived there for about 4.5 years, and I met Kai there about 3.5 years ago. We had our first apartment there together, and obviously we have like so many memories. And we've both been back since we moved here about 1.5 years ago, but we never managed to go back there together. So that's what we decided to do. It was super stressful because it was a Saturday before, like an Advent Saturday, so the 4 Saturdays before Christmas, because I get incredibly busy because everyone is out shopping and doing Christmassy things. It was also a late shopping night, so the entire city apparently had their stores open really late that night, which meant that it was impossible to find parking, and the city was just so crowded. And we had all these plans to meet a couple of friends as well as have a coffee where we had our first date and, you know, do a couple of nostalgic things. And of course we had way less time than we had anticipated, so it was quite busy, but it was also really, really fun. I even did some shopping, which I didn't think was going to be possible. We met with friends that we hadn't seen in a while. We had a really nice dinner. And yeah, that was a really, really fun sort of afternoon/night in Würzburg. We also went to the Christmas markets, and I was going to check out my old local yarn store, but sadly it has closed since then. So that was a little bit sad, but oh well. Then of course we drove back to my parents' house, which is about 45 minutes from there. We stayed there overnight and just hung out with family. We had a big sort of Christmas family breakfast on Sunday. And yeah, it was really, really lovely. It did mean, however, that we did a lot of driving in 2 days. So by the end of the weekend, we were both kind of dead. And I had just kind of been battling my flu for a while, like not really getting sick, but not really feeling 100%. So on Thursday night, it finally got to me, and so yesterday I was sick from work. But I am feeling okay now, so it should be fine. Next weekends are going to be equally as busy. I can't believe it's Christmas in like 2 weeks. Like that's just insane, right? Am I the only one who's feeling like that? Like I spent so many months being excited for the Christmas time, and now suddenly we're right in the middle of the Christmas season, and I'm in no way ready for that. Um, I've been doing way less gift knitting than I was planning to, but frankly, stuff has been so busy. There has been so much going on, and some stuff is just falling to the wayside, and I'm just going to accept it because I just don't have the energy to stress about it. So yeah, life has been busy, but that's not a bad thing at all. I'm planning to record another podcast in about 10 days. I'll have some fun news to share then. And hopefully I'll have some more time to be recording a few more sort of podcasts slash just random knitting episodes before and after Christmas. I'm hoping to get back onto a more regular podcasting train very, very soon. It is definitely happening. Yeah, what else? Oh, yes, one thing I hope you guys haven't turned off yet. Talking about the challenge cal, which is the knit along that we're running at the moment, I completely forgot to talk about this at the beginning of the episode. That is running until December 15th. But I've kind of realized that that's a really dumb time to end a knit along. Because first of all, everyone's really stressed out, and I know that there are a couple of you who are still knitting on their projects and maybe worried about not finishing, which would be really, really sad because I think you're doing really awesome challenges, so I'd be really sad if you guys couldn't finish. And secondly, I was going to ship out the prizes, of course, but I'm not going to ship out prizes before Christmas because I'm just too worried that that Christmas post is intense. It's so insane. I even stop ordering stuff before Christmas because I'm too worried that stuff gets lost in the mail. And also the queues in the post offices are going to be insane. So I figured I'm not going to ship the prizes until after Christmas anyway. So why don't we just extend the knit along until December 31st? That way you guys have enough time to finish your projects or maybe start some new ones. Maybe you'll have some extra knitting time in the Christmas holidays. And then I will just ship out the prizes and everything in the new year. So I've just made that decision now. I hope you guys don't mind. I will try to post some kind of reminder on Instagram and in the Ravelry thread as well. So please feel free to keep entering your projects and keep challenging yourself if you have time in this crazy sort of Christmas period. I have really been loving seeing everyone's progress. It seems that the biggest challenges for you guys have been color work, which has been my challenge for sure, as well as brioche. So I'm thinking about maybe doing some color work and brioche specific knit alongs next year. I already have one new knit along planned out, which I'll probably talk about in the next podcast episode as well. So yeah, I think that pretty much is it in terms of what I've been wanting to talk to you guys about today. I'm going to go lie down now. I had so much coffee this morning and I want so much more. I think I'm just going to hang out, wedge out on the couch and have lots of coffee and tea and maybe eat some Christmas food. And yeah, that's pretty much my plan for today. So thank you so much for joining me today on this podcast. I'm just losing my train of thought now. If you do want to follow me and see what's going on, the best place to follow me is on Instagram, where I'm the Happy Knitting Podcast. You can also, of course, subscribe to this video, so whenever I do upload again, you will be notified right away. I'm thinking it's going to be around the 20th or 21st of December, so there will definitely be an episode before Christmas. Until then, I always love hearing from you on Ravelry, in the comments, on Instagram. Thank you so much for spending the time with me today. Have a great couple of weeks, have a great weekend, and happy knitting. Bye!